Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
We're both coughing and spluttering off screen, aren't we? Off air. Before we started this, we're both
Mm,
coughing
yes,
away.
got to get professional now, uh, Steve.
That's it. That's it.
We have a laugh.
Oh,
That's the main thing, isn't it? You have a laugh.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Um, how you doing, Dad?
I'm doing very well. I've had a lovely week this week. Some old friends. I mean, old friends, but I haven't seen them for a while, and they come to stay with us for a few days. It was really nice. Oh, we were trying to work out how long, and I think it was 1956 we met, and we've been friends ever since. It's a long time ago. A lot
That's a
of
lot of
water under
years.
the bridge. Yes. So it's lovely. Lots to talk about, and have we had a great time. So
Oh,
yes, I've been busy. Not so much with artwork this week. I've foregone that for chatting,
been
but
socializing instead.
that's right. But it did us good. But I'm
No,
back to the grindstone next week, solid. But I finished the picture. That's the main thing. So we've got
you
something to show.
did. You did indeed, yes. Well, that was the priority, of course, this week, um, to finish this picture. So let's discuss that as you brought it up. Let's pop it up on screen
Sure.
now. So here it is, the finished picture, and I mean, it's fantastic. It's Do you know what the background was not what I was expecting.
No, I bet.
Um, was it what you were expecting?
It's what I wanted to do because on the original photographic reference, it was there were traces of that colour. It was a bit like all photographs. They can never do a backcloth unless it's a studio photograph, and then you can, but you can't get a tiger in the studio, especially to do what he's doing. So, but I was part of that, and I liked it, and I thought that really looks nice against the tiger. What I did with the tiger, funny enough, and people might like to know this, I found it on Pixabay. I know I always look at it and think, now what can I alter? What can I change? What can I improve upon really on the artist? And one of the things was when it went on my computer, I quietened it down. It was a bit orangey, too orangey. Now, if you see the tigers in real life, and we've seen one recently at the wildlife park we went to, they're not that orangey. They're more ochre. So I tried to think back, and well, so I've gone somewhere between the colour that I would see, which is lovely, very attractive, but needed a bit brightening up. So I somewhere between that and the photographic reference I had. So I changed that, but I was very pleased with it in the end, the way I did. The trouble is, if you follow the reference that exactly, you've got to find the colours exactly. So sometimes you're looking at false colours, colours that don't quite match. So what I did, I took it back to more or less its natural stage, colour, and that was easier for the colour combinations.
And it looks like there's detail in that background that's severely fogged out, like severely blurred.
Mm.
It's so interesting. You've created almost little bits of interest in the background where we can't see what it is.
No, that's right, exactly what it is. And that's exactly what I like to do. And I think people should be, if they're doing animal portraits, try that, try to do that. Try not to put the background as you've seen it. Try to establish that because the most important thing of all is the animal itself. That's what you want to see. So everything should be fair. That's why photographers do that. It's a depth of field. They focus that, and sometimes, and I've done this myself, where you've got a foreground that also can interfere with the subject. Then you slightly fade that. You can't fade that as much as you can a background. It doesn't look natural, but you can fade it off a little bit so that you get the eye, when you're looking at a picture and a painting, you're looking directly at the subject, and that's what appeals to. But yes, it was a lovely background. I did mention it last week, didn't I? That I was thinking of doing that, and so I
can't
didn't.
remember.
Yeah, I did. I mentioned that because it was something that I was looking forward to doing. But again, you do a little test run, one little corner. It was the left hand, right at the bottom of the left hand side. I did that. I played with that a little bit, although the colours I used basically were the colours that I ended up with. And but the light colour that you see there was actually put on afterwards because I was using the light grey. I used the warm colours. That's the 273. In fact, I didn't use 273. I was going to, but I ended up using the Carbothello 704, 708. Those 706, 704, 706. And they, as well as the Faber 270, which is a nice bright colour. And that was the colour that I actually put on afterwards to give you that light bloom that's there. But it all matches, that's the thing. You've got to have colours that are compatible with each other. You can't put something foreign in there. The only foreign colour I put in was down on the right-hand side, where you've got a little bit more open background, and I put the greens in there, a few greens in there. But again, you've got to be careful with those because you've got bluey greens and you've got the warmer greens. If you use the bluey greens, you can get away with it, but it wouldn't look as good as the warmer greens. You see what I mean?
And of course, in real life, you're more likely to see those greens probably down in the bottom for foliage and things like that. Is that intentional?
Yes, yes, of course it is. I usually do that because if you put it in the background, it's going to be much farther away from you, isn't it? So, well, not much farther, and this is in a bush, but generally speaking, it's further away. So therefore, you're not going to be able to appreciate that. But when it's on the foreground, I would call that the foreground area, you're going to see more of that. So it's like a natural environment without making it obvious. And I didn't want to do that. That would have spoiled the look if I'd put leaves in it, and
Would have
branches.
taken the attention away from the tiger as well.
That's right. That's exactly it. So you end up by when you're looking at that tiger, you're seeing him. You're seeing the whole the whole area of that you're intended to look at. Without almost immediately, you don't really. You can dissect it and think, oh, look at those teeth, and then concentrate there. But when you're looking at it, you're looking at the whole animal. That's the impression you get. You do when you're looking at it. Naturally, if you're looking at an animal, you're looking at the first thing you look at is the whole animal. And then you start dissecting that and thinking, oh, I like the way the stripes, I like, this sort of thing. But that's an afterthought. So that's what an artist really has got to do. He's got to have that in his mind when he's doing a picture like this. You've got to look at the whole and make that something that people are attracted to.
Interesting. The thing that struck me as well when I first saw this finished picture, and I've opened it up on my screen now, is the drama that the whiskers have added to the face. I wasn't expecting the whiskers to have such an influence in the drama of the pose and the mouth. And
Well, that's what attracted me to the picture, actually. When I saw the picture, I thought, God gracious me, you wouldn't believe it. But that's a little bit milder. I've toned that down a couple of notches.
really,
They were brighter than that. And I thought, wow,
it looks like there's a lot there.
there was more. There were more.
Wow.
I had to curb them. But again, it's a matter really of how do you temper something and still get the impact. So I had to work it out. And when people see the original video of it, you'll see I actually do say that. Say, no, I'm going to put in zip, 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 zip them in. And then I had to temper that. And I thought, no, do I do any more? And I say that on the video. No, I think I've probably done enough. oh, let's have another couple, zip, zip, done. Knowing when to stop is the thing. But I stopped when exactly right. And the other thing is, interestingly, and I must admit, I didn't necessarily see that until I started putting them in. The pictures right at the top of the screen are on the other side. They're not on this side. You probably wouldn't have realised that, and I don't think people would, but that's on the other side of the tiger. So I had to go from there, and a couple strayed onto the front, so I had to reposition the top of the head so that they did actually sit behind. I think they're in. I love things to do things like that. And,
Yeah, and with the short ones coming out of the jaw or the bottom as well, just and they do look so bright. They look so sharp. Did you have to sharpen your pencil midway through?
Oh yeah, no, not midway through. No, and the reason I don't do that is because I get a nice sharp point to start with, and I twist the pencil as I do a whisker. I twist the pencil, and people know that. So if you would go zip, zip, zip without moving the pencil point at all around, yes, you would blunt it. Probably halfway through, you'd have to sharpen it. But when you do what I do, and you zip, it's quite. Once you get used to it, it's easy, because it's a zip thing. It's like I'm showing you on the screen, like that. You're going, whoosh, whoosh, and then that turns the point. So constantly, you're sharpening the pencil as you go.
Very interesting.
Tricks of the trade.
The other interesting thing is the position of the ear. It's like I've just really noticed it properly. The ear is back in a different position. That I don't think I've seen you do before with a tiger.
No. It's another thing that attracted me to the picture, because I knew that I had to make that three-dimensional. It had to come out. Otherwise, it would just be against the animal, and I thought, well, that would look silly. So what gives it the lift, if you like, is the shadow underneath it. If you look at the ear, you can see a shadow that's underneath that ear. It's got to be very subtle. You can't make it obvious. And then you lighten the top. And when you lighten the top part of the ear, you've got to darken slightly the top of the head. So you get a contrast. You get a contrast of light against dark at the top, and then you get the light against dark at the bottom. Are you with me? It takes a bit of manoeuvring, manipulating, but you've always got the reference there. It's always there if you look for it. You can't make something like that up. You've got to see it and pick it out on the reference photograph. But it's always there. There's always a clue, because the photographer will note all the lighting that's there, all the light effects. You can accentuate them sometimes. In this case, I've quietened them down a little bit. They were a bit more, they were stronger than I gave them, so I wanted to temper it a little bit. It's a balanced job, but that's what makes that ear stand out. In real life, when you would actually see the the original picture that I've done, it stands out more than that. It always does with original work. The original work tends to be a little bit more three-dimensional than a photographic reference, because after all, it's just a flat surface you're looking at. It's only the colouring that gives it that. But when you're looking at an original picture, you get a little bit more magic to it. It tends to come away. And it's a shame people can't see it. They might see that on the video more than they do on a photographic reference.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, having finished this picture and adding this to the archives of all the tiger pictures you've done, where would you say this sits in terms of difficulty?
In terms of difficulty, for someone who's starting out, probably quite hard. I'm putting it in the intermediate because I don't think it would be unobtainable. The tiger is not going. It's not going to be impossible for someone to do. What would be probably hard is getting the stripes, particularly, to look natural, and that's the hard bit, because what you do is think, oh well, that's an ochre, and that's a black. Hang on, that looks as though you've painted it on, literally. So you've got to make the, and again on the video I actually concentrate on that. You see that the actual stripe. Do you remember last week? Was I talking about stripes last week? Did I say I only use 3 colours? I can't
Yeah.
remember. Did I? I think I did. Normally I would use a grey to start with. In this case I didn't. I used a brown. 176 for the orangey ones and 175 for where it has the white. Oh, I think I did mention it last week because we were showing the a stage, wasn't we? First stage. So I did mention it last week. Well, all of that goes to make it up. Now, I would say your question, what do I? But I think it's in terms of. I don't think it's any harder than some of the later tigers I've done. I wouldn't think that. But as far as I'm concerned, it's the best one I've done. I would say by quite a long way, because
Okay.
there's drama there, and the mouth is open. I know I've done an open mouth before, but that he really does look as though you want to get too close to him, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's interesting you highlighting just about those stripes and how, you know, people that have not worked with pastel pencils or worked with your style of technique before in the past may think it's a little paint by numbers, and in some ways it is because they're literally numbers on the pencils.
On the pencils.
But there is a certain finesse and subtlety around the techniques that you use in terms of it's not this color then this color done. It's the graduation of shading, blending of other colors, merging those so that it's realistic. And so I think when people understand that by following the classes and then they approach a picture like this, then they've got that fundamental in place. And so, as you say, it's not unattainable because if you understand that, then you can create that realistic effect and stripes and stuff like that. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the way we've done, the way I work anyway, and I've always worked this way, is I pay attention to the drawing, the draftsmanship side. If you don't get that right, it doesn't matter how great you are at colouring, you're not going to make the picture look natural. So the first thing I do, always have done, is make sure I've got the correct balance of eyes and the stripes are not quite so critical. That you can take a little bit of liberty with if you want to. But where you've got the eyes, in this case the ear, was critical that you follow the lines that you see or you make on your square drawing or whatever where you do it. But you've got to follow that quite religiously, and the mouth particularly. So you've got artistic license on everything else, though. I mean, obviously the shape, and you see the twist of the head. If we look at that, the twist of the head is only noticeable if you follow the stripes. Do you think the stripe? If you don't get those right, if you just go willy-nilly and put them flat, the head won't. Well, it will turn because you've got it with the mouth going round. But basically, you won't get the attitude. With this, you've got the attitude. Direction of her. How many times have I said that? I'd like to have £1 for every time I've said that on a video. The direction of her is critical there. And if anybody, when they have a look at this, if they can get it on the screen, blow that up to look at the direction that I've taken on all the fur, because that also indicates the twisting and turning. You see what I mean? It's all put together.
yeah.
It works.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The key for me is that area on the left-hand side where the stripes, create that almost triangle and then they curve round the body, and it's clear. Like you said, I'd never even picked up on that, but it is absolutely clear that that's one of the turns in the body.
And there's one other thing that also indicates that, and that is in the on the left-hand part of that where you've got the orangey stripes going around the body. There's a dip. It's a little dip there, where I've indicated with the shadow. Again, that's also muscle. It's a muscle that's turned. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
Now you can probably see it. Now I've pointed it out. It's all to do with lighting, and that muscle is critical to the head turning. Small point, but
very
interesting.
interesting. Very interesting. Well, I found this fascinating. I hope that other people have also found this really interesting. As Dad said, this is a class. You've done it, you've completed it, you've filmed it, so this will be up on the website in the future. But for now, if you've got another one planned for next week, or another one you've started.
I'm not going to tell you about. I'm not going to tell you. I've started it already, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I think people will be
Brilliant.
quite surprised about it. I haven't done it before. This is an animal I've not done before, which is going to be interesting for people. Well, what hasn't he done? I think I've done most, but I haven't done this one.
Excellent. Great stuff. Fantastic. Okay, well, as always, if anyone has any questions or anything they'd like us to discuss, then please email it over or get in touch with us via the various means that you can. And we'll be back next week to talk about the new picture that Dad is working on. But for now, we will leave it there for this week. So thank you, everyone, for watching and for listening. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley. Enjoy your week.